This lesson is going to be a bit longer with lots of information to digest. In this lesson, we will cover measuring and dividing in perspective, a tool that we will use throughout the course. It is a very important tool to learn in order to have a correct measurement and segmentation for any object in perspective. So let's dive right in. We have a rectangle in the front view that we want to duplicate to the right. Since this is in the front view and not in perspective, we can simply copy it to the right or measure the dimension and move it to the right. However, I want to explain what we will do in perspective in the front view first, just to make it easier to understand. To duplicate this rectangle to the right in the front view, we first need to find its center. Let's connect both diagonal lines from each corner to the other to find the center point. Now, draw a horizontal line going through the center all the way to the right. Extend the top and bottom lines of the rectangle to establish the limit of the new rectangle we're going to draw. Take note of the intersection point between the new horizontal line in the middle and the outer edge of the rectangle. We will need to connect from either of the initial corners on the left of the rectangle through this point all the way to one of the top or bottom limits. Once we connect these 2 points and reach the top limit, draw a vertical line from it toward the bottom limit. With that, you get the exact duplicate of the rectangle moved to the right. If you want to create more duplicate to the right, you already have the necessary points. So go from the initial corner of the new rectangle and connect it to the center of the outer edge, all the way to the top limit again. Again, draw a vertical line to outline the new rectangle and repeat this process as many times as you want to get exact copies of your rectangle. All of this was done in the front view. Now let's see how it will look like in perspective. Draw your rectangle connecting to one of the vanishing points and repeat the same process. First, connect the corners to find the center point. Then connect the center point to the vanishing point. Next, connect the initial corner of the rectangle to the center point of the outer edge, all the way to either the top limit or the bottom limit. Finally, draw a vertical line to outline the new rectangle. You will notice that the second rectangle is smaller than the initial one, due to, of course, foreshortening, size, and placement, like we saw in the earlier lessons about the principles of perspective. When you see that your second rectangle is smaller, don't think that you have done something wrong. They should not look equal if they were drawn in perspective. You can replicate this process over and over to duplicate your rectangle all the way toward the background. If you want to turn these rectangles into boxes, connect these rectangles to the other vanishing point to determine the depth of these boxes. These are not perfect boxes, of course, and I mean they don't have the same equal faces on both sides, but we will refine them later. For now, estimate the width of the first box and repeat the process to the left side. Connect the corners, find the center, connect the center to the vanishing point, connect the corners to the new center point, and finally draw the vertical edge. You will have many boxes duplicated with the same size on both sides. Okay, let's take it a step further, but let's return to the front view. What if you want to duplicate this rectangle with a space in between the copies? This may seem a bit tricky at first, but it's essentially the same concept. First, consider the rectangle you want to copy and the space next to it as one object. Find the center of this whole shape, and then extend a line to the right along with the top and bottom limits. Now you know how to copy a rectangle, so do the same here. And we are dealing with the whole shape as one. Connect the corner of the initial edge of the rectangle to the center of the outer edge of the whole shape, all the way to the bottom or the top limits. Now you have the same shape copied to the right. To find the edge of the rectangle without the space, find the center of the space by itself first. Once you have the center of the space and the center of the outer edge, and connect a line from the initial corner of the rectangle all the way to the outer edge and the center of the space all the way to the bottom limit. Wherever this line intersects is the outer edge of the rectangle and the initial edge of the space. Repeat this process to find the overall shape first, and then remove the space by connecting between the initial edge and the center of the space. You now have 3 exact copies with the space in between. You can even draw the rest of the boxes if you want and get 3 boxes with spaces in between. Now let's do the same thing in perspective instead of the front view. You have the initial rectangle and a space here. So find the center of the whole space first and connect it to the vanishing point. Now duplicate the whole shape as one, and then find the center of the space in between and connect it to the initial edge of the rectangle to create the space in between. Repeat this process as many times as you want to get as many boxes as you want. Draw the rest of the boxes on the other side, and you will have 3 boxes duplicated with space in between, all in perspective. Now that we know how to duplicate objects in perspective, what about segmenting those objects in perspective? How can we divide an object while in perspective? Let's start with a simple plane in one-point perspective, beginning with an easy example to keep things less complicated at first. Imagine that we draw a simple rectangle in perspective converging toward a vanishing point. Suppose we want to divide this rectangle into 5 equal parts, both vertically and horizontally. To start, divide the bottom edge into 5 segments. This is relatively straightforward, since the edge isn't converging into the perspective. It's all on the same line in space. Add 5 segments that are equal in length to each other along the bottom edge. Then connect these points back to the vanishing point. By doing this, you will obtain 5 vertically equal segments on this plane. To segment the plane horizontally, connect between the corners, either one of them. Whenever this line intersects with the vertical segments will determine the lines of the horizontal segments. It's a straightforward process. And this is how you can create a plane with 5 segments in each direction in one-point perspective. Very easy. Now let's explore how to do the same thing in two-point perspective. Imagine we draw a quick plane connecting between the 2 vanishing points. Here's how to do it. Begin by drawing a horizontal line from the corner of the bottom edge all the way to the right. The length doesn't matter. It can be as long as you want. What's essential is to divide the horizontal line into 5 equal segments like we did before. At the end of the final segment, connect it back to the corner of the edge you want to divide. Wherever this line intersects with the horizon line will become a new reference point. Think of it as a vanishing point for the segments you want to divide. From this point, connect back to all 5 segments points that you created earlier. Wherever these points intersect with the original edge of the plane is the actual segment of that edge. Now that you have these points, connect them back to the opposite vanishing point, so you can divide the entire plane in that direction. This might seem complex initially, but with practice it will become more manageable. And now you can repeat the process for the other edge. To segment the plane horizontally, extend a line from the same corner horizontally to the left this time. Divide it into 5 equal parts, and at the end of it, connect it back to the other corner of the edge you want to segment. This becomes your second measuring point, or reference point. From there, connect back to the points you created earlier to determine the new points on the edge itself. Connect these points toward the opposite vanishing point like we did before, and now you have a fully segmented plane in two-point perspective. Now there is a shortcut I can show you if you are interested. Instead of repeating the same operation on the other side, you can simply use the trick we learned earlier in the one-point perspective. Connect a diagonal line between the 2 corners, and wherever this line intersects with the existing segments that we did on one side, that's where you will find the division points on the other side. Connect them to the opposite vanishing point to segment the plane. And to confirm, extend another diagonal line from the other corner and it will hit the same points. To illustrate that both methods work, extend the same line below as you did before, at an arbitrary length. Connect the end to the corner to the plane as we did before and create your second measuring point. From there, connect back to every division segments using the diagonal line. You will see that the segments you obtained on the horizontal line are still equal in length to each other. In whichever way you choose to do this, both methods result in dividing the plane in the same manner. Now let's raise the complexity a bit more and segment a box this time, not just a plane. A box has 3 visible sides. How can we segment this box? Let's treat one of the sides as a plane and apply the same process we did in the previous example. Start by extending the horizontal line at the bottom edge, dividing it into 4 equal parts, connecting the end of it with the end of the box edge all the way to the horizon line. Mark your measuring point there. From this point, connect back to the points you created earlier. Wherever these points intersect with the edge of the box, those are the division lines. So you have successfully divided the first face of the box vertically into equal parts. Add a simple diagonal line from one corner to the other to find the intersection points for the horizontal divisions. Connect them toward the vanishing point to obtain the horizontal segments. You can apply the same process to each face of the box, but as always, there is a simpler method. Connect the points of the vertical line toward the opposite vanishing point. Since you know they are equal parts, there's no need to repeat the process. You already have them. And you can use the same technique for the other side as well. Right away you will have the first set of divisions all around. For the opposite segmentation, simply add a diagonal line and you will find the vertical divisions. Both methods work efficiently. For the top side, we simply connect these new segments to the vanishing points to complete the segmented box. We have demonstrated 3 different ways to segment this box. The more you practice these exercises, the faster you will become, and you will discover more shortcuts to complete the task more quickly. If this explanation was too fast for you, please rewind and watch it again. Furthermore, we will be covering more exercises in the upcoming lessons, so please make sure to practice these techniques before moving on. They are essential for the lessons ahead. Now let's move on to the final example. In this scenario, we will use everything we have learned so far to reposition the windows and doors on both sides of this building. Let's start first by duplicating them. Extend the lines of the windows and doors all the way to the vanishing point to determine the upper and lower limit of each opening. You can treat the space before the door and the door itself as one large rectangle, just as we did before. Now you can duplicate the space to the right by locating its center, and then extending that point to the horizon line. Finally, add a diagonal line through the center of the outer edge to the bottom limit. Now that you have the entire space duplicated, repeat the entire process to find the third rectangle. To exclude the opening this time, I need to find the center of the door, not the opening like we did last time. Because here the opening is before the door, not after it. Whatever comes second, find the center of it and connect it to the corner of the whole rectangle. This way we find the edge of the initial second door and the outer edge of the space in between. We do the same for the third door, and here we get all 3 doors done. To find the other windows, we can do the same process all over again. Or just simply extend the door lines upward, and then we can find the second and third columns of windows. To position the same elements on the side of the building, you will need to rotate these lines to the other side. This can be achieved using the ellipse method, which we will discuss later. However, there's another approach, using what we have learned so far, by using the diagonal line. Start by drawing the diagonal line on each face of the box, or the building, and you can reference either of them. But I will demonstrate using just one. Notice where the first door intersects with the diagonal line on both sides, and mark these points. Connect these marked points all the way back to the vanishing point and to the initial edge of the box. Also mark the top of the door so you know where to stop. Connect these 3 points from the edge to the opposite vanishing point. Observe where the lines of the door intersect with the diagonal line on the second face. This will mark the location of the door. It may seem small or short, but it's not. The side face of the box is distorted due to its proximity to the vanishing point. To duplicate this door 3 times, you can use the same method as before, treating the entire area before the door and the door as one unit. Find the center of that area connected to the vanishing point and duplicate it using a diagonal line from the center of the shape to the center of the outer edge. Repeat this process 3 times and you will obtain 3 areas. Now, since the sides of the box are unequal, there will be still space beyond the third area, unlike the front face. To find the doors in the second and third areas, locate the center of the door and connect it to the initial corner of the shape. This way you will find the space between each of the doors. As you can see, these spaces may seem too small for the side of the building. It's better to have one door on the side instead of three like we did on the front. To achieve a door that is 1 unit wide with half a unit on each side, connect the top limit of the door to mark its position. Then find the center of this area, draw a line to mark the center of those two equal areas, and then find the center of each of these areas to divide them into halves. Mark the door for the two middle spaces, leaving one space on each side. Now the door is 1 unit wide with half a unit on each side, giving it a better proportion. To draw the windows on top, connect the lines of the windows on the side all the way to the edge. Move these edges to the vanishing point, and the windows will be in the area between these lines and the lines of the door you just drew. You now have a complete building using the division and diagonal method. Now let's explore the measurement method. Here we draw a horizontal line to divide the lower edge of the building. Instead of dividing the edge into equal segments, we will see how to measure unequal segments using the same method. We already know that the door is 1 unit, and the spaces before and after it are each half a unit. Extend the line to an arbitrary length covering the entire edge. Connect the end of that line to the corner of the box, extending it to the horizon line. And here we have our first measuring point. From it, I connect a line all the way to the initial outer edges of the door, extending it all the way to the horizontal line. This way we have the half unit marking for the space and the unit marking for the door. All that's left to do is copy this pattern 3 times to get 3 doors. It fits perfectly. There is a space before and after each door on the horizontal line. To position the door accurately, we connect these markings back to the measuring point. Now that I have all the markings on the box, let's hide all these lines and extend these points vertically to determine the placement of the doors and windows collectively. All that's left is to connect the tops and bottoms of the doors and windows to the vanishing point. By doing this, we obtain the new windows and doors between the intersecting lines. This method is much faster than the first one, but both techniques work well to achieve your desired result. And here they are, all done. Let's now examine what happens to the other side of the building. I want to copy a single door to the other side because all these doors won't fit on the shorter side of the building. However, I want it to be exactly the same size as the door on this side, not just fitting in the middle of it. To achieve this, I bring back the markings and the measurements we did for the doors on the right face and copy one door, along with the 2 spaces before and after to the other side of the corner. Next, I connect from the edge of this new horizontal line all the way to the corner of the box and the horizon line. Here I have my second measuring point. I connect it back to the marking on the horizontal line to determine the placement of the door on the other side. I then extend the markings vertically to determine the placement of the door and windows. I connect the top and bottom limits from the first face all the way to the edge and then back to the other vanishing point. By doing this, we obtain the windows and doors between the intersecting lines. And here it is, the building is complete. Now, whether you find the first method is better, faster, or more accurate, or you prefer the second method, the choice is entirely up to you. There are numerous methods to achieve the same result when drawing in perspective. My role here is to present all the options to you and allow you to choose the path and method that best suit your style. Before I finish this lesson, I will demonstrate one more exercise that incorporates some of the measuring tools we have learned so far to create a perfect cube. What is a perfect cube? It's a cube with equal sized faces all around. This doesn't mean each face has to be a perfect square, but all the faces, regardless of their shape, are equal to each other. This process can be a bit tricky, but I will guide you through it step by step. We have our horizon line and 2 vanishing points. The first step is to find the center of the distance between the two vanishing points and mark that position. From there, draw a large circle that starts at the center of that line and passes through both vanishing points. You don't need the entire circle, just the portion that goes from one vanishing point to the other. On this curve, mark any location you desire. It will serve as the stationary point or your viewing position. From this point, connect lines to both vanishing points, always at a 90-degree angles regardless of the stationary point placement. For this demonstration, I'm selecting one of them to draw the cube from. Again, connect lines to the vanishing points at a 90-degree angle. Then draw a vertical line to the horizon line. Next, draw a line at a 45-degree angle from one of the perspective lines you have drawn. To achieve this, simply draw over one of the lines and rotate it 45 degrees if you are working on Photoshop. If you are doing this manually, use a compass or a triangle. Since there is a 90-degree angle in between, measuring from either line will yield the same result. Additionally, mark the point on the horizon line where this new line intersects. This 45-degree line is crucial because it passes through both corners of the box's base. Now draw the first two edges of the box anywhere you desire on the 45-degree line. Then decide how big you want the box to be and place the next intersection point for the other two edges of the plane, making sure it's also on the 45-degree line. No matter what size you choose, this should create a perfect equal edge plane in perspective. To determine the vertical line for the box that is equal to the edge of the base plane, follow a couple of steps. First, rotate the line between the vanishing point and the stationary line all the way to the horizon line and mark where that line ends. This will serve as a measuring point, similar to what we did with the previous example. Draw a horizontal line from the corner at the bottom all the way to the right. From the measuring point, connect a line to the other corner of the rectangle, intersecting with the horizontal line. This line represents the length of the edge on the horizontal line. To obtain the first vertical edge of the box, simply rotate this line 90 degrees. It may appear somewhat taller compared to the bottom, but this is distortion. It's due to the foreshortening in perspective. Nevertheless, it's the exact copy of the rectangle. With the vertical edge in place, connect the top corner to both vanishing points to define the top limit of the side edges. From these new edges, connect to the opposite vanishing points to establish the back faces. Finally, connect the midpoints between the back faces to obtain the back edge. Now the perfect cube is complete, measured and drawn in perspective. You might wonder why you would go through this whole effort to draw a cube. The crucial aspect of this exercise is to learn how to rotate a ground edge to create a vertical one, which we will need in a later lesson. There are other ways to draw the perfect cube without using the 45-degree line. The initial steps are the same for the circle and the stationary point. But let's go right ahead and rotate both lines from the vanishing point to the stationary point back to the horizon line as a measuring point 1 and 2. Now we can pick any point in between the two measuring points in perspective and connect it to both vanishing points. This will be the first corner of our perfect base plane. From there, choose any height you want for your cube. Once you do that, rotate this height horizontally to both sides of the corner. From the end of each line, connect it back to the opposite measuring point we just drew. Wherever this line intersects with the perspective line of the first corner is the exact length of the vertical line horizontal. This is basically the previous method but the other way around. We get the vertical first and then get the side edges afterward. Once we get the length, we extend the lines vertically toward the upper limit and get the two side spaces. From there, we connect the new edges to the opposite vanishing point to get the back edges. Finally, we connect between the back corners to get the final edge. And this is the perfect cube done without the 45 degrees line. This method gives you more freedom to pick wherever you want the cube to be, and not just on the line of the 45 degrees itself. But keep in mind that the location of the box will affect the way it looks in relation to the measuring points. See, when you put the box in between the measuring points, it will look more cubic. Once you move it far from each point, it will start to rotate, showing one edge bigger or smaller than the other. For example, let's draw one near the right measuring point using all the steps before. Get the corner, draw a vertical line, rotate it to both sides and connect each to the opposite vanishing point. And right there you will see that the closer you are to the measuring point horizontally, the smaller the edge will look like from one side and the bigger it will be from the other side. Even though this is still a perfect cube, but it will look distorted due to the placement of it near the measuring point. Let's do one for the other side. And you will see the opposite happening to the faces. You can also go lower in relation to the stationary point below, but the closer you get to the stationary point, the more distorted the box will look as well. So the perfect location for this is to be in the center between all 3 points, the 2 measuring points and the stationary point. When you do that, you will get the perfect cube in measurements and the way it looks. But again, I didn't do this just to show you how to draw a perfect cube. It's mainly to know how to rotate an exact length from a horizontal edge to a vertical edge, and vice versa. Something we will need in an upcoming lesson. So keep that in mind. The more you practice, the faster you will become at doing this. Exercises like this one demonstrated in this video are vital for learning and practicing these methods and tools. Watching this alone won't be sufficient. Repeat the exercises I have shown here and create your own, or even find new ones online. The important thing here is to practice relentlessly with these mind-bending exercises until you can confidently address drawing challenges. Only then will you truly understand how to draw rather than just memorizing the process. Remember, if you only memorize these lessons, you will likely to forget them by tomorrow morning. However, if you understand them and practice them, they will stay with you forever. So try to divide and measure as many rectangles and boxes in perspective and draw a couple of perfect cubes as well. And then you can move on to the next lesson once you are very confident that you are able to do this very quickly and very fast and very accurately. This has been a fun and extensive lesson compared to the previous ones. I decided to include it before moving on to the basic shapes like ellipses and cylinders because we will need all these measuring tools to explain some of those concepts later on. This lesson may have been longer, but it's necessary as we delve into the complexity of perspective. Things may get very complicated, but if you have followed the previous lessons, you will be able to tackle the upcoming ones as well. I'll try to provide as many examples as possible and leave no stone unturned. With that, we conclude this lesson, and in the next lesson we will finally draw something other than boxes. I promise. It's time to explore the world of ellipses and cylinders. We will see how lines curve in perspective, making it an exciting lesson. If you find this lesson helpful, feel free to leave a like. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section and I will do my best to respond promptly. To stay updated on the future lessons, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson.